I'm so very thankful for the opportunity that I have to talk to you today. And I'm thankful that you're listening. I've often said it, but if I was sitting here talking to a microphone and a camera and these broadcasts would go out over the airwaves on 110 or so radio stations nationwide and internationally, and no one tuned their dial at the appropriate time to the appropriate frequency and heard my voice, well, then this broadcast, this program would be something of a waste of time. If no one tuned in, maybe even after the fact, and listened on their favorite podcast platform and searched Bible Tract Echoes or Bible Tracts Incorporated and listened on Apple or Spotify or what have you, well, then this broadcast might be considered a waste of time. If no one tuned in on YouTube and watched the video version, then you could make the case that what I'm doing right now is a waste of time. But I'm so very thankful that I get to hear from not just a few, not just a couple, not just dozens, but I've heard from hundreds of you about this very program and how much of a blessing it's been to you. Let me say, number one, thank you for listening. And for those of you that have reached out and said, you know, I do listen and it's a blessing to me, thank you. Thank you. You can reach out to me. If you'd like to talk to me today, I would be happy to text you back. If you have a question, maybe even a comment, need some clarity, or you have a critique, feel free to reach out to me. You can text me as always, morning, noon, or night. I can't guarantee that I'll respond within a couple of hours, especially if I'm sleeping. But you can text me right now at this phone number. It's 309-316-7240. Let me give that to you one more time. 309-316-7240. We've been talking this week about being like Jesus. We've been asking the question, how can we be like Jesus? And we've already answered the beginning of that question. We can be like Jesus by being a missionary. And I don't just mean that you're going to pack up all your belongings, you're going to sell your house, and you're going to move your family to the furthest reaches of a foreign land. I'm telling you that you and I can be a missionary precisely where God has us today. Think about it. We are truly ambassadors of a foreign nation. We are ambassadors of heaven. We have the opportunity to, our home, our church is really an embassy of heaven. We should, I should say, carry heaven's flag on our heart. We should be all about telling people about the grandeur of heaven, about how they should want to go to heaven, about how we are going to heaven. I ask you, when was the last time you shared your testimony? When was the last time you told someone, here's how I came to know the Lord? Hey, when was the last time you did anything approaching being a missionary? Anything with any similarities to being a missionary? There's an old story about 4 people in the work of God, 4 people in a particular church. Their names were everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. This church, this particular church, had some financial responsibilities. They wanted to give to missions work. They wanted to see people go around the world and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And everybody was asked to help. And everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it. But you know who did it? Nobody. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. You say, that sounds a little amusing. Well, I'm not done. Then the church needed some maintenance done. There was some work that needed to be done. Some siding needed to be taken care of, and somebody was asked to help. But somebody got angry about that because anybody could have done it just as well. And after all, it was really everybody's job. So in the end, the work was given to nobody, and nobody did a great job. Of course, I'm speaking a little tongue-in-cheek, a lot tongue-in-cheek right now. On and on this went. Whenever work needed to be done, whenever a special offering was promoted and there was a missionary coming through, nobody could always be counted on. Nobody visited the sick. Nobody gave liberally. Nobody shared his faith. In short, nobody was the most faithful member of that particular church. You say, all right, Micah, I get the hint. You're using what we call a little sarcasm, aren't you? My daughter, Emmy, is just now learning about sarcasm, Emmy and Lucy, and somehow they've got it in their head that it's pronounced starcasm with a T, S-T, starcasm. And they are not big fans of sarcasm because they'll ask foolish questions every once in a while, and I'll answer with just a little pithy, sarcastic response. Of course, it's easy pickings. They're 5 and 4 years old, okay? I'm not setting myself up as some comedic genius, but I'm teaching them a little bit about it, about sarcasm, if you will. And they don't like sarcasm. And maybe today you don't like my sarcasm. You're thinking, Brother Micah, get to the point. Well, we have the responsibility to be missionaries. We've already read this week, I won't for the sake of time, but Luke chapter 2, verses 40 through 52, we hear about a child named Jesus who grew wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. We should want to be like Jesus, wouldn't you agree? We should want our children to be like Jesus, wouldn't you agree? And if we should want to be like Jesus, then we should want to be missionaries. Because missionaries, a missionary is what Jesus was. I ask you, do you want to be like Jesus? If you don't, then it could be that you don't truly care about a lost and dying world. I ask you, where are missionaries going to come from? There are numerous cults. There are numerous false religions, people that don't abide by what this book, the good old Bible, God's holy word says. And their heresy are leading people to a devil's hell. Day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year. So I ask, if not our homes, if not our place, if not the person that we see in the mirror or the children that we have dinner with each night, where are missionaries going to come from? If you can give me a good answer, you can feel free to text me and let me know where they're going to come from, but I don't see it. I don't see where they're going to come from except for people of the book, people like you and people like me, children like yours and children like mine. We are the ones, the Bible tells us, that have been given the Great Commission. Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. Well, friend, that is not just given to everybody, not just given to somebody, not just given to anybody. It's given to every single Christian. I ask you, friend, are we missionaries? Maybe we don't reach out. Maybe we are not missionaries. Maybe we don't want to be like Jesus because you don't think important what God thinks important. Again, for sake of time, we won't read it, but you know in Matthew chapter number 9, towards the end of the chapter, pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest. What? That He would send forth laborers into His harvest. I ask you, when was the last time you truly prayed that prayer and asked God? You realize how deep and dark in sin the world is. When was the last time you prayed that prayer? But when was the last time you prayed and asked God if maybe, just maybe, He'd call you? Or maybe, just maybe, He'd call your son or daughter? I wonder, do we truly care about a lost and dying world? Do we think important what God thinks important? Or do we have different priorities? Maybe it could be that you don't think being a missionary is a prominent enough occupation. Maybe you don't think it pays well enough for you yourself to partake in it. And maybe you never lead your children down that pathway because you'd rather them be a doctor or a lawyer. And you're right. A missionary, that work is not an occupation. It's a high calling. It's the highest calling. Romans 10, verse 15, how beautiful are the feet of them that are doctors. I have friends that are doctors. But you know what? I know doctors that are also missionaries at the same time. I'm not downing or denigrating or putting any sort of doubt on your chosen occupation, what God has led you to. But can I tell you, beyond your occupation, I don't care if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you fill in the blank. You can also be a missionary. So I ask you, are you? But I must also ask, have you ever considered that God would call you to full-time ministry? Has that thought ever percolated in your brain? There is no higher calling possible than that of being a missionary, and I don't mean just on the foreign field. You can be a missionary where you live. You're a school teacher? Great. Be a missionary to those children. Maybe you have a similar but opposite problem for your kids, for you. Maybe you have a low bar for yourself, a low standard. Maybe you have a low bar for your children. Bringing your children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, like Ephesians 6 and verse 4 tells us, doesn't mean that you should be so happy if they don't end up in jail. Can I tell you, friend, that's a very low bar to get over. No, if we are desiring to bring our children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, in what this book tells us, train up a child in the way he should go, if that is our calling, if that is our desire, we should want the best for our children, not just physically, not just mentally, but also spiritually. Maybe if you are currently not raising your children to be missionaries, maybe if you've never considered it for yourself, it could be, and this one I actually have the most sympathy for. Maybe it's because you're fearful. And I do realize that this idea of confronting other people with their need of the gospel, and of course realize you don't have to jump right in, smacking people around and telling them you're going to hell. That's absolutely not the way I'd approach it at any point in your Christian life. But you know you can start being a missionary just by giving gospel tracts out. I've got in my back pocket right now, I've got my tract wallet. And inside, I've got some gospel tracts. And you know what? While I was driving to where I am right now, talking to you, I'm actually in New York, preaching at a missions conference and having a wonderful time with some good people. But while I was driving, every stop I had, I didn't get a chance to go through the entire gospel, but every stop I had, I gave a gospel tract out to the cashier at multiple gas stations. I reached around the island there. I was pumping gas on my side, and on the other side, I'd say, hey, would you mind reading a gospel tract? I didn't get every single person. I didn't walk around the entire gas station past. I probably should have, but I did not, to my shame. But can I tell you, friend, fear, think about it. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. Perfect love casteth out all fear. I wonder if we don't understand how much God loves us, and therefore we don't understand how much God loves them. And that's why we are not witnessing, being missionaries as we should. Friend, join us tomorrow. We're going to continue in this thought. We're going to talk about how to be missionaries, how to be more like Jesus. Thank you for listening. Have a great day for His glory.
Thank you for tuning in to Bible Tract Echoes, the radio ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. Want to see our gospel tracts and other resources? Visit us online at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. Or follow us on social media to learn how you can partner with this ministry. Thanks again for listening. May the Lord richly bless you as you live for Him.